I got it. Into GC Live. Fowl Balls regional baseball is upon us. Jack made the drive early this morning. How we doing? Are you ready for some playoff baseball?
I am. I had a fun week in Hoover last week covering this team. I'm absolutely exhausted today, though. We were talking about it before. I got up at around 6 to get up and get ready, and then picked up our photographer for Gamecock Central, Kitty Duggan, who's with me this weekend, and then we left and got here, went straight to baseball, and then it's been nonstop busy. I was leaving the field earlier, and I see a parking ticket on my car, and I'm like, wait, what? It was an empty lot right next to the field, and luckily there was no dollar amount on it, so I guess it was just a warning. But yeah, man, it was weird, but we're here, we're alive, ready for a nap later, but we're here and thriving and having a good time. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, South Carolina, in terms of the selection show, Mike, you and I were live. Jack, you joined us. We talked about it when we were live. I want to talk about it now. It's obviously the favorable of the projections and where they landed. The landing spot was a pretty good one for the South Carolina baseball team. Going into this one, I mean, NC State, their pitching is similar to a lot of SEC kind of bullpens and pitching staff that you face. JMU also kind of similar. But Jack, in terms of this favorable spot, you were at the selection show. How was the vibe? Obviously, when everything got selected, and then how does this team feel about where they're at?
I think everyone feels good, and with me personally, I think it's the best draw that South Carolina could have gotten.
Yeah.
I think, in my opinion, I thought they were either going to go to not Raleigh, excuse me, Chapel Hill with UNC, which would have been probably the toughest regional. LSU ultimately got sent there, and then the Clemson regional, which Vanderbilt got sent to. And personally, I think Vanderbilt's going to take that one. Clemson's had a good year, but they've been slipping a little bit lately, and I definitely think Vanderbilt's getting hot at the right time. But and that's what this tournament's all about. Whoever gets the hottest usually wins it. So for Carolina, the vibes are good. I was at the selection show on Monday, and this is a team that, look, they came off a bad loss to LSU. Lost a game they shouldn't have lost again, but they are feeling good. They were excited. They were, I'm sure everyone's seen the video on, I think it's like Barstool Clemson on Twitter, with the team cheering when Vanderbilt got selected to go to the Clemson regional. And obviously when South Carolina's name flashed on that board, it was pure joy from the team and stuff and everyone else in attendance. So like I said, good draw. And then you get here today in Raleigh, and the vibes are good, it seems like. Obviously, the big blow with Gavin Cassis missing the rest of the season is a stinger, but it's something they got to overcome. And look, this whole season's kind of been about ups and downs and how you overcome them. And I think they're getting ready at the right time. They're getting hot, and we'll see how they fare this weekend. I think they're going to be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good little preview into it. Gavin Cassis, obviously, as you mentioned, is also some news, out for the rest of the season, having surgery on his hand today. Not great, but then they're going to have to make some changes in the field and also in the order. Jack, we'll break this down a little bit. What is the lineup change going to be without your third baseman?
Yeah, Mark Kingston didn't say exactly. Like, he was asked who's going to be starting at third base tomorrow, with Gavin not available the rest of the year. Yeah, and he basically was, he said he wasn't trying to be funny, but he ended up being funny, saying that you'll just have to wait till tomorrow to find out when the lineup cards are revealed. So what I saw today at practice, Talmadge LeCroy was taking grounders at third. That's no surprise. He was the guy who came in at third base and started against LSU on Saturday after Gavin got hurt and whatever. And then, Tyler Causey was over at third. Kingston was saying earlier in the week that Causey does have the ability to play first, second, and third. Now, the thing with that is that Causey hasn't played since April 20th. So how does that look? And then also he hasn't played at third all year. And then Lee Ellis, who came in to replace Lee Croy after making a mistake in Saturday's game against LSU, did not take any grounders at third today that I know of. He was out there at shortstop. I think he got a little work at second, so he was up in the middle infield, but I wouldn't throw him at third again. He didn't look great over there. Made a big costly mistake in the ninth inning of that game against LSU. And, look, it's not going to be perfect. That's kind of what Kingston was saying. Whoever they throw out there, just going to have to hope for the best, basically. And I don't know. If I had to guess what they're going to do, I originally thought it was going to be Causey, but the more I'm talking and more I'm thinking about it, I feel like you got to go with Lee Croy, despite all his errors and stuff and mistakes he made in Hoover. I mean, here's something I was doing the other day. I was rewatching the highlights from the NC State game last year in the Columbia Regional, and it was a world of difference to see the way Talmadge was playing. He was making great plays at third base. He was grabbing line drives, harder hit balls than that one that Michael Braswell hit off the bat that led to a 6-run inning. And he was hitting the ball. He was doing great. I just don't know what's happened since last year. Something's obviously changed. I think just the big thing that I'm looking for tomorrow is whoever starts at third base, the first ball they get hit to them, make the play, because that sets the tone for the rest of the day. It does a world of confidence for you if you're able to go out there and get the big one out of the way, because I'm sure whoever's out there is going to be feeling a lot of pressure tomorrow, especially if it's Talmadge coming off the week he had. But whoever they do start, it's really going to come down to offense at the end of the day this weekend, and especially tomorrow against a guy that for JMU that has a high ERA and stuff and hasn't made it past the fourth inning since March 1st. So we'll have to see what happens, but I definitely would I think it's going to be Talmadge tomorrow.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's going to be Talmadge. And I mean, it gives you the chance to start Tippett at short, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it as you would think for an offensive favored regional too, as you mentioned, Jack, and we'll preview that a little bit more. But that's another thing I picked up on is that, I mean, the ERAs are really high in this regional. Now, I mean, obviously there's better ERAs through NC State, but this is going to be a really offensive heavy regional. So I think that plays South Carolina's favor for certain. I also like Lee Croy. Again, there's got to be a point for him because traditionally he's a really, really good defensive player. He can also hit the ball pretty well, but he's been struggling in both categories. So eventually, I mean, you got to break it, right? And it takes some trust to do that. So I think, maybe getting the nod back at third where he's comfortable would be the best thing for him. So we'll see. Certainly think that's going to be, the change that they make. Jack, anything else from Coach Kingston that stood out? You were obviously at his media availability today.
One other thing, I think the ball. So with watching practice today, I think the ball was flying pretty well off the bat today for most guys. I'm sure some of you are wondering what NC State's ballpark is kind of like. And we spoke to Cole Messina and Eli Jones in Kingston today. And we'll get into Jones in a second. But, Cole was saying that the ballpark is very similar to Founders, and that Kingston was saying the same thing. The ball is, it flies off the bat when the wind's blowing out, and dimension-wise, it's not too far off. So I think it'll be very beneficial to hitters. But I think at the end of the day, this series this weekend is going to come down to who's able to get more outs from their pitching. I think everyone's got good offenses, but when you look at the statistics, South Carolina does have the best pitching in this regional. Surprising as that may be.
Crazy.
It is crazy.
As of how they've been recently. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. And the pitching had a good week, I think, in Hoover. It gets more inflated because of the defense. So my point is that I think this is going to be a good weekend for South Carolina's offense. It's all just going to come down to whether or not they're able to play defense and pitch. Now, with Eli Jones, he'll be starting tomorrow versus James Madison. And I think a lot of people were going back and forth with who they were going to start. I think, the argument could have been made for Garrett Gainey because you need to win tomorrow. I mean, if you lose, you're in the losers bracket, and then you have to play. You're going to be playing 5 games in 3 days or 4 days, I should say. And that's just tough. I think you want to win tomorrow, and then that puts you in the winners bracket. And then if you go out there and beat NC State or Bryan on Saturday, you're set up very well, needing only one more win. in the next 2 days after. And I think the ideal scenario would be to go 3-0 in this regional, but you're going to have to get good outings from your pitching. You're going to have to set it up well where see what happens. But I think Eli is going to be, Kingston was asked, are there going to be any restrictions with Eli or anything? I think he said he just has to go with the game flow. I think if Eli's on a roll and he's pitching very well, get as many outs as you can from him. It only saves your bullpen in turn. Obviously, if he's struggling a little bit or something's just not right, then you can throw it off to the next guy in the bullpen and go with the bullpen game. But I think it's going to be a wait and see sort of thing. And I don't know. JMU's got a good lineup. They got a good team. They're going to put the ball in play. So South Carolina's defense is going to be tested early. But we'll have to see what happens. And if they can make plays in the field, I think you probably feel good about where they're at.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did want to ask you because I was talking about it a bunch on my show, kind of towards the tail end when I was talking about just what went wrong in Hoover in the fielding. When there was a couple questions. It's like, is it a confidence thing? Like, what is your take on the fielding? Like, why did the fielding just all of a sudden go wrong? And I guess how do you fix that going into playoffs?
It's a great question. I think I was doing a little more research this week, kind of figuring out, okay, how has South Carolina's defense been in general this year? Because I believe up to this point they made 59 errors. And look, Mark wants to boast about how this team has a 797 fielding percentage or whatever, and how that's the highest they've had in his time at Carolina or whatever the case may be. That's great and all, but you're making a ton of errors and it's leading to losses. If there's any downfall to this team, it is definitely the defense. And it's been like this for weeks now, I think. And you made 10 errors in the last 3 games at Hoover last weekend. And it's not like they were, simple plays. Some of them were simple, like Matthew Becker making an errant throw to first, Lee Ellis fielding a bunt and making a bad throw as well. It's just little things. You got to be able to take your time and make a good throw. And then, we saw it with Eli Jones as well. He made an overthrow to second base on a double play ball. And, obviously in the field, Talmadge just got to get in front of the ball and make plays. So I think it's more so, it's not, obviously it's all about confidence too. Once you make a mistake, it definitely gets in your head a little bit. And when the balls hit hard, I can imagine for those guys, it's tough, but you also have to have the right fundamentals and you have to be able to get in front of the ball. I've talked about like 3 or 4 times now this week. Ethan Petrie on Saturday against LSU had a very hard hit ball to him at first base, much harder than the one Braswell hit to LeCroy. That LeCroy should have made. Ethan gets in front of the ball, hits off his chest, and knocks it down, steps on the bag for the out at first. So my point is, if you do things like that, your odds are much better at making plays. So I think just having the right positioning, footwork, the ability to not be scared of the ball. I don't think they are scared of the ball, but you have to be able to get in front of the ball and make plays. Otherwise, it's going to go right by you. I think that's kind of what we've seen at third base lately, with some balls hit down the line and stuff. And look, those are the hot corner is one of the toughest positions to play in baseball, in my opinion. But you definitely have to be alert over there. And Talmadge is more than capable of playing that position. We've seen it before. Like I said, referencing last year against NC State, I was amazed with some of the plays he made. Much harder hit balls than he's seen lately. So I think it all comes down to just making the first play, and you go from there. But it definitely does come down to confidence as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I think, there was a lot of pressure on this team, in Hoover. And so I think, and one thing I like to say a lot of times is when you get errors, it likes to add up, right? Because one bad error will shake the confidence for everybody, right? So I think, limiting the errors is one thing. I think that's a step in the right direction. And then because you can't go perfect with it, right, and expect differently. But tuning it up, right, just limiting it, to your spots and stuff, time and place kind of thing is another one. So, I think just bring utmost confidence that you can get the job done in the field. And then, just limit it to, a lot less than 10 in 3 games, essentially. But just a lot of confidence is what I'm thinking you're going to need. So, Jack, transitioning a little bit into, just this regional as a whole. Game 1 against JMU tomorrow. What have you seen from the Dukes?
Yeah, we got to listen to them speak a little bit today, and they are going to be, as soon as I find this guy's name, they're going to be starting Todd Mozaki. Hope I'm pronouncing that right, but he'll be starting on the mound for the Dukes. And like I said before, he hasn't gone more than 4 innings since March 1st, so there's a very good chance South Carolina can get to him early and attack him. He's got a 6.80 ERA on the season, a 1.83 WHIP. He's 5-1 on the year in 18 appearances, 8 starts. He's struck out 42, but he's also walked 22, and he's given up 9 homers, which by the looks of it, is definitely the most on. It's tied for the most on the Dukes. So I think, with the way this ballpark plays, I think South Carolina is going to be able to hit a lot of homers this weekend. If they were able to hit as many homers as they did in Hoover, which is it's a valley there, I think they're going to be able to do the same thing, if not better, at definitely a little bit of a smaller ballpark that kind of plays in their favor. But then offensively is definitely where they, JMU really shines. It all starts with Fenwick Trimble, who's hitting 371 with an OPS well over 1,000. He's got 14 homers, 61 RBIs, 638 slugging, and he doesn't strike out a ton. He only has 21 strikeouts this year. So he's definitely a threat. You also got Mike Mancini, who's at 326 with 11 homers and 44 RBIs. And then Brendan O'Donnell's another name that stands out. 16 homers, 44 RBIs. They have 5 guys in this lineup that have 10 or more homers this year. So yeah, I definitely expect I don't know. I think if Eli can minimize damage and his defense helps him out, I think South Carolina's got a good chance of kind of keeping JMU in check. But let this not be mistaken. Like, this offense for the Dukes can definitely go out there and swing it with anyone. But I definitely think pitching-wise, they got some guys out of the bullpen that are solid. I don't know how they want to use their guys tomorrow, but we'll have to see. I do think South Carolina's in a good position, though, if the offense gets going early.
Yeah, absolutely not, Jack. I firmly agree. I think, pitching-wise, you have to have, just an overall pretty good complete game out of your staff, right? Because one thing about JMU, they've been in a lot of high-scoring games, which tells me this offense can get going at any point, right? So you got to be on your game pitching-wise. And again, I think, Jack, like to your point too, I think, also that this regional, it's going to be about whose pitching staff steps up. It's always, that's is tradition with the NCAA tournament, NCAA baseball tournament as a whole. But this regional especially, you have a lot of high-powered offenses and a lot of pitching staffs that haven't been themselves, throughout the season. So it'll be interesting to see. But again, I think, as you were saying too, just limiting this offense, right? But then put together a complete game, limit the errors too, because it's playoff baseball. Like this is, the NCAA tournament, you're playing for your lives here. So, I think the errors and everything, like you can't let that the bad mojo add up, because it'll add up quickly and the other team will take the momentum and run with it. I think that's the key against JMU. You got to just limit the errors. Again, it's been the key all week. It's been what everyone's talking about. And then be able to, take the momentum that you had from Hoover and take it into the NCAA tournament. Don't come out flat, as we've seen this team do before as well. So Jack, also looking at, NC State, the hosts, they're going to be taking on Bryant. What are you seeing from NC State? And then we'll do a quick one on Bryant too.
Yeah, with NC State, they're obviously the host. They're 33-20 on the year. They earn their spot, I think, despite, I do think there are some teams out there that maybe should have gotten a chance. I think Duke is an obvious one that should have been hosting after winning the ACC tournament, but obviously that's not the case. But again, just like JMU, and it's going to be the same thing with Bryant. These are all very good offenses, but I think it's all going to come down to who pitches the best. Now, I know for the Wolfpack, they're going to be starting Sam Highfield tomorrow, who's got a 5.56 ERA, but he's one of their key starters, does have a complete game shutout this year. And his numbers aren't too bad. 69 strikeouts. The walks are a little high at 36. The homers are also up a little bit, 17. Opponents are batting about 231 against him. So, they do have, it's going to be a little bit of a question mark with how their starters do. But again, it's in their home ballpark, and I think that kind of benefits them. And again, they're playing Bryant, so it's going to help them in that aspect of like a pick-me-up game right before things kind of pick up, assuming they get South Carolina in this situation. But they may also get JMU. And then offensively, they've got a guy with 19 homers, 71 ribbies. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this guy's name, but he's batting 376 on the year.
Yeah.
Where's number 99? So he's got Aaron Judge type numbers right there. And then you got Garrett Pennington, who's got 14 homers, 59 ribbies, hitting 345. And honestly, I mean, this lineup is very dangerous. Looking back to last year a little bit with the Columbia Regional, most of this team is definitely different than last year, and so South Carolina. So I don't really see that having much of an impact on a potential rematch or anything. I mean, these are new squads. I mean, yeah, NC State does have some pitchers that I remember from last year, but I think it's all different at the end of the day. And like I said, whoever plays the cleanest, I think, ends up winning these games.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, another team that can certainly hit the long ball, 83 home runs from the team, on the season, just short of JMU leads the regional with home runs, I believe, with 84 of them, which is ridiculous. Another hot offense, too, going in. But I think NC State, I mean, looking at their offense, too, Jack, just hot. They've been hot recently. Obviously didn't have the ACC tournament that they would have liked. Obviously with Duke winning, and certainly one of the weaker of the host sites when you look at it. But I think what it's going to come down to for NC State and also, I mean, South Carolina too, as like the higher ranked teams, the SEC, the Power 5 teams in this regional. It's the pitching, right? They've had success out of their pitchers. 4 out of their 5 starters, have winning records. And so again, it's just finding that success and same goes when you're the underdog, right? You got to tap into the magic that is playoff baseball. So again, NC State's another formidable opponent. They're another really good team. And again, if they start to have success in game 1, watch out for game 2.
Yeah, definitely. And, with this pitching staff, I mean, I'm looking at some of the deeper numbers here, and there's a great tweet from Friday Starters that came out, I think, the day of the regional being announced. I mean, with NC State, I mean, their walk percentage is 221st in the country. Their FIP is 6.79, which is 239th in the country. Team ERA is 6.32, and for comparison, South Carolina's is 5.13, which is the lowest next to Bryant, who has an ERA of 5.16. But, the pitching doesn't really, stand out tremendously. Obviously, the offense is better for every team. But I think if things kind of go into place like they did last week for the pitching staff for the Gamecocks, I definitely think they are in the best position to go out there and potentially win this regional.
Yeah, absolutely. Jack, obviously one more team in the regional. We'll hit on Bryant real quick before we hit some ads and then give our predictions as we normally do. But Bryant out of Rhode Island, did you have to do a Google search to figure out where they were? Small school.
When you and Mike were running GC Live on Monday, and then I hopped in, I had no idea where Bryant was, quite honestly. I thought they were in New York, and Mike, obviously being a northerner, corrected me and said they're from Rhode Island. So all I know is they're from Rhode Island. I probably should be doing a little more research on them, but again, they're the 4 seed, and the thing with them is they are the only team in this region to earn an automatic bid, meaning they won their conference, the American East, and they had to beat UMBC to do it. They, much like everyone else, high power offense, 81 homers for them. They've got a really solid team. I mean, they've struck out 460 times. They take a lot of hit by pitches, and they're batting 282 as a team. And like I said before, the ERA is right around the same spot as South Carolina. Now, the thing with them is they also have a lot of power hitters in their lineup. Gavin Noriega, he's got 18 homers with 58 ribbies, 43 walks, 34 strikeouts, and a 338 batting average. And then, some other guys that stand out. You got Carmine Petosa, who's got 14 homers, 60 ribbies, 321 average. So, most of their lineup is very solid. I'm just rattling off a few names here, but I wonder how it's going to play. It wouldn't surprise me if the Bulldogs go out here and potentially steal a game this weekend, but it could also be tough. We'll have to see. NC State's a good team. If they were to face JMU in the losers bracket, assuming South Carolina can find a way to win tomorrow, then that would be tough too. But I definitely think that would be Bryant's best chance to win. And then if they, make it to play like South Carolina or NC State again, that would be tough. So I don't know. I mean, don't count out any 4 seed really, but obviously, I think the main interests in this tournament, I think most people are thinking that are going to make it out of this regional potentially would either be Carolina or NC State.
Yeah, absolutely. No, again, certainly a hot ball club coming into this one. They lost twice to UMBC, beat them in the third game of that series, and then have won or tallied that into winning their next 3, including the conference title. 2 of those games being over UMBC again. So it's a hot baseball team, hit a lot of homers, like we said. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. Again, Bryant, it's an offensive heavy regional. We've said it before. We'll say it again. Feel like we're talking almost in circles here, but again, because a lot of these teams are so similar, right? Play the same style, so it's going to be the pitching that comes down to it. But they're Jack. I have a feeling you'll see some fireworks this weekend for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think there's going to be a ton of fireworks, a lot of offense this weekend. I think South Carolina can match anyone in this region. But again, like we've kept saying this whole time, Joe, I think the pitching and the defense. I think South Carolina hung around with the best of the best in the SEC last week, and they beat national seed Kentucky, they beat national seed Arkansas, they beat NCAA tournament team Alabama. So look, the preparation's there. They went out and won in a harder tournament, in my opinion, or I guess quote unquote regional, if you want to call the SEC tournament that sort of pre-regional type thing. I think they played really well last week. Obviously, you got to clean up the mistakes, but they played really well against the best of the best and had a chance to win in all 5 games there. And now it really comes down to, okay, can you kind of repeat that this week?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we get into our predictions, let's hit our ads real quick. First one is our good friend Clint Hammond. He's above us on all of our GC Live programming. In need of help with your mortgage, call on our good friend Clint Hammond of the Movement Mortgage Network. He's been in the mortgage industry since 2003, which allows him to help everyone from the first-time home buyer to the complicated and complex jumbo buyer, whether you're looking to purchase a new home or refinance. Nothing is more important than a well-thought-out financial strategy that comes with 5-star customer service. He's even helped out our very own Wes Mitchell and former Gamecock quarterback Perry Orth with their mortgages. So give our guy Clint a call. He's above us on all of our GC Live programming. You can contact him at clint.hammond.com or 803-422-6797. Once again, 803-422-6797 or clinthammond.com. And our other sponsor for today is Andy Luedecke of My Perfect Franchise, as we pull his name up real quick. And this week's this week's episode of Fowl Balls is brought to you by Andy Luedecke of MyPerfectFranchise.net. Are you ready to leave the corporate rat race for the American dream? Looking for a side hustle while working your current job? Wanting to diversify, build wealth, or leave a legacy? Andy can help. Andy is a franchise consultant as well as franchise owner and helps people find franchises that fit their skill sets, financial requirements, time to commit, and more. His services are 100% free, and he's here to help if you have any questions about business ownership. You can contact him on your screen right now, Andy Luedecke, Andy at myperfectfranchise.net or 404-973-9901. Once again, 404-973-9901. So, Jack, getting back into the baseball, as we always do at the tail end of the show, predictions. I'm sure we'll be doing some GC lives throughout the weekend, depending on how the team starts to do. Well, you got a pick for us?
Yeah, so I've been kind of thinking a little bit back, and with Tennessee, I was completely wrong. I picked South Carolina gets take 2 of 3, and they got swept. And then last week, I gave my pick as I think South Carolina to win 1 game in Hoover, and then drop the next 2, and that was obviously wrong. So if you're following my trend here, I've been wrong on my picks lately. So I'm going to do the, reverse jinx here. And I'm going to say that South Carolina, I don't know. I truthfully, I do think they make it out of this regional, but with history and, being wrong on most cases, I'm fine with being wrong again. I'm going to see South Carolina loses this regional, and I think they're going to, look, if they lose 1 game, they're basically screwed. That's my 2 cents on it. It is very possible they do lose a game at some point. So I definitely think they're going to go 1-1 in these first 2, and then over the next 2 games, I think they get eliminated on Sunday. But I've been wrong in the past, and I hope to be wrong again. So we'll see what happens.
Trying the good old reverse jinx past us there, Jack. I'm going to give my honest thoughts. I mean, I think they make it through this regional. I do think they lose a game. I think it might be to JMU, to be quite honest with you. I think this offense is really high-powered. I think this team comes out a little flat. I would like to be proven wrong with that one. But I think, JMU is the sleeping giant in this regional. I think, their offense is obviously as high-powered as it is. And they've played in a lot of high scoring games type thing. And so they're used to, kickstarting the mower of the offense, if you will, for that reference there. But yeah, no, I think they make it out. They could lose to JMU, but, I don't know. I think they make it out of this regional and are off to supers. And hopefully we'll be talking about that come next week.
And look, here's the thing. Like we kept saying, there is a huge difference in if they win and lose tomorrow. Like if they lose,
oh yeah,
they're really backs up against the wall. Going to have to play 4 games in the span of 3 days, and that requires obviously winning an elimination game on Saturday, and then you play 2 games on Sunday, and you would play the winner in the regional final on Sunday night, and then if you win that game, you have to beat the the regional final opponent again on Monday. So look, you have to win these first 2, in my opinion. You could obviously you can be fine potentially losing a game at some point. I think Saturday would be a little bit more realistic. But again, you don't want to be playing an elimination game. You want to go 2-0, and then all you have to do is win 1 more game the rest of the way. And I definitely think this team is set up well to make a run. I think the pitching, while they don't have a rotation really, and we'll see what happens with Eli Jones and maybe Garrett Gainey this weekend, but I definitely do think they have the pieces to go out there and make a run. It's all going to come down to if they can limit their self-inflicted wounds and play their brand of baseball.
Yeah, certainly. Quick question from EXO before we get out of here. Do you think Georgia will win their regional? Wonder if Wake Forest gets into a super regional. I think out of the 2, I think it's going to be Wake Forest. But no, I mean, I think if Charlie Condon continues to be Charlie Condon, I think they'll be just fine. The bats will kind of take care of it. And if somebody can figure them out, that's how you do it.
Yeah, definitely. I think Georgia's got the toughest opponent in that regional for Georgia. Obviously, they have Georgia Tech in there. UNCW is a sleeper. Obviously, the controversy with Charleston not getting into the NCAA tournament is ridiculous. I think they should have gotten in, but UNCW won the CAA championship and got in as an auto bid. They're a sleepy team. They're a sleeper. I think they're going to be able to go in there and win in Athens and take that regional. And then with Wake, I can't remember exactly what they're in the East Carolina regional. Oh. That's going to be tough. I do think Wake's going to be well equipped to win it. They have College World Series experience on that team and stuff. And look, if Wake wins and Tennessee wins, we get the Chase Burns Super Regional in Knoxville. Mm-hmm. So that would be pretty dope. But I think, like I said, UNCW, and then I think Wake can go into ECU and take care of business there. But we'll have to see what happens.
Good takes. It'll be interesting. Let the playoffs, the madness commence. Jack, you're doing a great job out in Raleigh. Yeah, as always. But yeah, that will do it for GC Live Fowl Balls, our preview of the Raleigh Regional. As always, you can subscribe to Gamecock Central on our YouTube page, and then also hit that little bell icon to let you know whenever we're going live. So appreciate everyone tuning in, and follow along with Jack's coverage in Raleigh. It's been fantastic so far. All of that, GamecockCentral.com and at Jack T. Veltri on Twitter, correct?
Appreciate it. Yep, that's right. Yeah. And South Carolina, for those listening, plays at 2 p.m. tomorrow on ESPN Plus. Again, ESPN Plus. So I know some of y'all are going to ask, oh, is the game on ESPN or ESPN2, whatever the case might be? No, you need a subscription. And yes, it is separate from SEC Network Plus, to my knowledge. So go ahead and get that subscription. Watch your Gamecocks, try to win a regional. And if not, follow along with me and the rest of the crew on GamecockCentral.com, as we'll have lots of good coverage throughout the weekend.
Yeah, should be fun. Jack, best of luck this weekend as always, and appreciate everyone tuning in on this fine Thursday afternoon.